worldwide, Iron Claw, and to get to portray such a legendary wrestler as Harley Race, such an icon of the wrestling industry, especially in the 70s and 80s. He was one of the big names in the independent wrestling scene all across America.
Yeah. So first of all, thanks for having me on. This is a great pleasure. Appreciate it. Yeah. So Harley Race, I mean, he's the man. So getting to play a real life, wrestler, real life character like this is definitely a dream come true. And this whole week leading up to it, the whole month actually, starting with the premiere in Dallas on November 8th, has just been great. It's just going so quickly, and it's opening up in the U.S. on Friday.
And I suppose when you have such an iconic family, and everybody knows about the Von Erich family and the tragedy that has gone with the family in terms of 5 of the 6 sons no longer with us. Let's say an over possessive a father in terms of the demands that he sort of put on his sort of sons, and it almost sort of feels like that it's fictional, that this thing didn't really happen, but of course we know it did happen. And these sort of people say, is there a curse, is there voodoo, is there something befallen this sort of family in terms of the early success was met by such later on in life, such real tragedies?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a true story. Kevin Von Erich, the last surviving brother, who's actually portrayed by Zac Efron, he's been involved with the screenings and the premieres, and he's just great. I mean, and I think he moved his family to Hawaii years ago, just I guess to get away and maybe run from the curse. I don't really know, but I know he's back now. He's back in Dallas with his family, and I think they just moved into a ranch. And he, from what I understand, I think he's going to enter the wrestling ring pretty soon too. Like his 2 sons just started again. It's going to be great.
Yeah. And I suppose, Kevin, in terms of, tell me, I've seen some TV series and I've seen some movies where the retired legendary actor Chavo Guerrero has worked with actors and tried to turn them into wrestlers and mimic wrestlers in such a short period of time. Tell me, what was it like for you as an actor? Probably, dare I say, you might have had maybe some brief knowledge of the wrestling industry, but was it almost going to like into your first day of primary school as a child again and being taught by Chavo Guerrero from start to finish? Was it a real eye-opening experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to say the least, I mean, I really didn't know much about pro wrestling. So, we kind of entered like a little wrestling camp. We rehearsed in some small kickboxing studio somewhere in Baton Rouge. That's where we rehearsed, and then we shot on set. So there was 2 different sizes of the rings. But in terms of Chavo, I mean, what a great, unbelievable talent, just in terms of wrestling knowledge, and his ability to be able to take actors such as Zach and myself and make us look like wrestlers on screen. And he did an unbelievable job.
And was that sort of, you mentioned a sort of mini sort of wrestling camp, was that almost like a boot camp in sort of nature?
Yeah.
Was it fairly intense?
Yeah.
Was it really?
It was. I mean, it was, I guess Chavo had to figure out, what, first of all, like our physicality, like could we do the stunts? Could we do the actual wrestling actions that were required? And then we just went through the motions of the script, and he basically choreographed the entire thing like a dance. Yeah, it was definitely like a little mini boot camp for sure.
And I suppose, obviously, Zac Efron plays one of the lead brothers here, one of the lead characters, Kevin Von Erich, and obviously he's probably known from teen movies, maybe comedies, rom-coms, and in terms of that. I remember reading somewhere that he went so deep into trying to get the understanding and the background of the Von Erich's family that when he actually met Kevin himself, it was to get Kevin's approval
Yeah.
meant so much to Zach in terms of his portrayal. He was worried about doing the thing justice in terms of the Von Erich family.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, and Zach did a great job, as did the entire cast. I mean, the entire cast, the entire crew, everything. And of course, our director, writer, producer, Sean Durkin, who's just amazing. Yeah, so Zach, I mean, he really put the work in, and I know that, it was important to him, important for all of us, but especially him, to have the approval of, the last living brother who he plays, Kevin Von Erich. And, Kevin was at the screening in Dallas, the world premiere, and I think he gave the blessing.
And I suppose just maybe we can talk a bit in depth about the movie without sort of giving too much away for our audience and listeners. But I imagine this sort of starts off in a family home, and there's a sort of a gradual sort of the lovingness of sort of family, the competition and competitiveness between sort of brothers and siblings, sort of rivalry as well. Are we talking maybe after they hit the wrestling industry? Are we talking maybe 3/4 into the film where we see maybe the, dare I say, the blades come off and things begin to start getting pear shaped in terms of some of the main sort of characters? Is a smooth sailing, and then sort of gets the road gets very lumpy or very bendy all of a sudden?
Well, without giving too much away, let me just say this: it's like a Greek tragedy. People are saying other reviews, and I kind of agree with that. Knowing the story of the Von Erichs, and anyone who knows it, would know that this family was hit with just tragedy after tragedy after tragedy. So, we're not giving too much away. It gets interesting pretty early on,
Okay.
if that makes any sense. Yeah.
Okay. And tell me, in terms of your own portrayal of Harley Race,
Yeah.
you mentioned working with Chavo. Did you actually start to, in your own time, maybe go on the internet, find a few clips, find a few videos of Harley, maybe watch how he moved and walked within the ring to get a sort of a sense how he carried himself, how he held himself, just to sort of mimic his sort of posture and the sort of way he sort of moved around? Was that some sort of extra sort of, dare I say, prep for you? That we all know actors prepare lines and how they portray the lines, but obviously when you're doing a portrayal of moving and actors and moving characters, is important to mimic the actions as well, how they hold themselves, how the posture, how they walk.
Yeah, so that's a great question. Everything. I mean, anything that I could find on Harley Race, I just absorbed, starting with YouTube and the internet. And I even went online, I think even onto his website, where he had a bunch of DVDs that I bought, and I just watched those. And I actually even I would rip the recordings, the audio from YouTube, because Harley did a lot of promos too when he's talking to the camera, talking about the Von Erichs or whoever he's wrestling. So I would actually take that audio off the clips and then just put it onto my iPhone and play it every morning while I worked out or did a walk for like 2 hours, just to hear the voice, just to hear, how he spoke, his gruntness, and how he got real down, and, his cadence. So that was every morning for, I would say, about a month and a half. I just played the same clip just so I would get his rhythm.
And I suppose, Kevin, we all know what sort of wrestlers. They say the wrestling industry, we all know it's scripted in terms of its performances, but the wrestlers know how to take falls, they know how to take bumps. And dare I say, did you have a sort of few bruised bones there on set, or so come back late evening and go back to your trailer or go back to your hotel and with aches all over?
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the fight scenes that I did with Zach, I mean, I think it was a 14 or 15-hour day. And we were physically hitting each other, and we were just doing this, big fight scene. So yeah, I was definitely super sore the next day. After we wrapped that night, all you want to do is go back to your hotel room and have a pint, right? That's it. So, I mean, but in the morning you wake up and I mean, me personally, I was just, super sore from hitting the mat. Just all the physicality. Absolutely, absolutely.
And do you think you've, from doing this movie, you probably had a respect, but do you think you have a greater respect for what those sort of sports entertainment stars do now, having portrayed it yourself and seen it up close up and firsthand?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, my wife and I watch it now. I'm watching it on Friday night. So yeah, I mean, it's made a fan out of me. I'm watching, even all the newer wrestlers, like MJF and everyone, and the Von Erich brothers. Shout out to them. They just entered the ring again, and they're great, and they're bringing the Iron Claw, back to Dallas, and it's great. Yeah, I definitely enjoy watching it now because even though you mentioned it being scripted and stuff like that. It's physically demanding. I mean, you're really literally hitting and falling and moving at a quick pace. I mean, it's not just like fake physicality.
Tough on your lower real. Back. It's very tough.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Back. Oh yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I suppose, Kevin, you mentioned MJF there, and to have a real professional wrestler in terms of, I know Chavo is retired and he was a professional wrestler in the day, but MJF is probably one of the leading lights of the major rival to WWE, All Elite Wrestling, probably known all across the United States and even wider afield as well. So to have him attached to the picture, have a real prominent wrestler in his prime as well. Do you think that really sort of gave it an awful lot of credibility to have such a star name portraying one of the Von Erichs as well? And dare I say, doing the fight scenes was easy enough for him, and he's comfortable on the mic, as we all know as well.
Absolutely, yeah. It was great having someone like that, attached to the project. He's even actually an executive producer on the movie, but we also had a lot of other wrestlers as well. Michael Proctor Brady. We had Thrill Billy, Ryan Nemeth. There was a bunch of other wrestlers who were involved, both playing characters and stunts. So it was just great having those people on set. For the non-wrestlers like us.
And I know, Kevin, we know, dare I say, what went on, and we don't want to talk about the dark time of SAG-AFTRA and COVID and sort of stuff. To get clearance to shoot away during what went on during that sort of difficult time, did you ever feel at any stage that the project was under threat in terms of being delayed? And what was it like waiting to hear that news that you could go back to work, where so many actors and actresses couldn't really? They were just sitting around and, dare I say, in their pajamas and waiting to see what would happen.
Yeah, so that was great. So we actually shot this like last fall in Baton Rouge. So it was kind of at the tail end of COVID. We still did testing I think twice a day. Yeah, no, actually, now I'm thinking about it, the testing element was definitely there, masks on set. So COVID was just about, kind of tailing away. In terms of the strike, we actually found out the strike was over at the Dallas premiere, like 2 minutes before the movie started. It just popped up on everyone's phone where the negotiating committee had reached a tentative agreement. Like literally the same day we were showing the Iron Claw. It was great because just all those months of the writers being on strike, and then SAG-AFTRA, and then just the back and forth. It was great to finally get it resolved. And then it wasn't 100% resolved because then it had to go to vote. And then that was I think that went through. It got ratified, I believe, on December 5th. So yeah, it's just great to have Hollywood back finally, and just everyone try and get along, and come through this dark time with where everyone is benefiting both financially and professionally.
And I suppose, Kevin, we all know, speaking to you there, that this project took basically up a year or more of your sort of life in terms of the involvement. Had you any sort of chances, I suppose, now in terms of anything, I suppose, that you can tell us that you're allowed to? Because we know the industry, some things are classified or closed that you can't really feel. But maybe upcoming projects in the new year that you might be guest starring in terms of a TV appearance or...
Well, that's a good question too. I just had a show come out right a week before the writers went on strike. A show called Dead Ringers on Amazon with the brilliant Rachel Weisz. That was great. So when that came out on Amazon in April, like a week or two later, the writers went on strike, and then in July, the actors. So basically, for 6 months, nothing was going on. So this is just starting up again. So I don't have any news to report as of yet,
Yeah.
but that could change.
Okay. And I suppose, Kevin, finally, before I let you go, to all our audience, all our listeners that are looking eagerly awaited, all the wrestling fans in Ireland, which there are hundreds and thousands of them, that would have grown up, even you were talking about audiences now in their 20s and 30s, but it's key to note that we have audiences in our 40s and 50s who would have been in their 19 and 20 at the time, watching along to the Von Erichs and staying up of a Friday, Saturday, or even listening on to the radio in the late 80s to hear the sort of wrestling shows. And what's in store for them in terms of this movie? Is it going to bring back so many memories of their childhood? And for the new audience, are they going to see some wrestling folklore and delve into a family that maybe that the younger generation of audience members mightn't know too much about, and certainly the older generation might have feel that maybe time has slipped by? Is the Von Erichs going to be brought back into the spotlight again with the Iron Claw?
Yeah, I I definitely think so. I mean, I think this movie is, shot and done so well, by Sean and the, director of cinematography Mateus, that I think the instant you start watching the movie, you're going to be just brought back to that time, that time period, and then even with that time in wrestling, like you're going to really feel like you're in the ring.
Okay. On that note, all that's left to say is do check out Kevin Anton in his portrayal of Harley Race in The Iron Claw, which features an all-star cast. We get to see Kevin Anton go one-on-one, square up with Zac Efron, and dare I say, I presume there might be a knockout on the cards somewhere, but or a few bloody noses. An all-star cast including Zac Efron, Aaron Dean Eisenberg, Stanley Simons, Chavo Guerrero, Jeremy Allen White, Maura Thierry, Holt McCanley, Harrison Dickinson, and MGF. The Von Erich family is such steeped in wrestling history. All that's left for me to say is, from me, Jim Conlan, to you, Kevin Anton, stay safe, take care, and God bless you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Cheers, Kev.
All right, man, listen, stay well and enjoy the movie.
Cheers. Thank you.